everyone, it's Jessica and welcome back to my cozy little corner of the internet. And welcome back to Junie! Because we're over halfway through the year, today's video is looking at the top 5 books that I've read out of all the books that I've read this year. If you've been following me for a little while, you'll know that I will read any genre. So there's a bit of everything in these books. There are a couple that really surprised me and I hope they'll really surprise you too if you give them a go. So let's get into it. The first book on my list I read back in February. I read it as a buddy read with my friend Millie, who was rereading it, and it is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I'm fully aware that I came to this one a little later than everyone else. I know it was majorly hyped up a couple of years ago. Everyone loves this series. But I was very hesitant to try it because I knew it was a very toxic romance. I knew a lot of the characters were quite polarizing and it isn't the type of book that I would typically reach for. And I'm not going to tell you it's a book that everyone will love. I don't think everyone will love it. The book is about Magnolia Parks, a rich socialite and her group of friends, which includes her on-off again ex, but also kind of current boyfriend, BJ Valentine. You learn pretty quickly that they are trauma bonded through a couple of things in their past, and they just can't let each other go even though they continue to do horrible petty things to each other. It's really hard to call this one a romance because at times you cannot believe they actually like each other. And whilst there are a lot of tender moments, I wouldn't say I was rooting for the couple throughout this book. In fact, now that I've read the second Magnolia Parks installment, I still don't think I'm rooting for them. But this is so addictive. So much drama, not just with the main characters, but with their friendship circle. And it's one of those books where it gets so bad, but you still can't look away. I've been describing it to people as Gossip Girl meets Made in Chelsea, but there are some other elements like criminal gangs, there's lots of talk about fashion and events. It definitely won't be for everyone, but I think it's especially fun to buddy read with a friend because me and Millie, even though she had already read it, would text each other when something dramatic would happen. We've also read the tandem series Daisy Hates, which goes alongside this one. I definitely think if you're reading the whole series, you will either be a Magnolia Parks lover or a Daisy Hates lover. I prefer Daisy as a main character. I think I want to root for her. I think she has a lot of interesting things about her personality, but I do think I preferred this book. I preferred the layout of this book, I preferred a lot of the background characters, and I also absolutely loved the plot twists. And even though it's quite a hefty book, me and Millie finished it so fast because we could not put it down. Next, I don't think anyone will be surprised that there is an Emily Henry book on my list, and that is Great Big Beautiful Life. This is very different to Emily Henry's other books. It's more of a historical fiction mixed with a contemporary romance. It follows 2 writers who are competing to write the memoir of a reclusive heiress who they have tracked down on a little island. She is very much an unreliable narrator, but she does feed them little parts of her past and they have to piece it all together to get to a big plot twist at the end. But there is also this wonderful rivals to friends to lovers storyline going on with the main characters Alice and Hayden. And I also think Alice is one of my favourite Emily Henry main characters of all time. She is just always so lovely and optimistic, and she's very open and sure of the way that she wants to act towards people. And then Hayden's moody personality makes for the perfect grumpy sunshine partnership. And it definitely reminded me of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And from reading other reviews, I know lots of other people thought that too. But controversially, I actually think I enjoyed this more because I think the contemporary romance added so much joy on top of the emotional backstory that Margaret had. Something that I found really brilliant was the pacing and tension. Obviously, it has the usual cute moments and steamy tension, but there were also a lot more quiet moments that explored Alice and Hayden's competing viewpoints and personal experiences. And I think this blend works really well at moving the story along, even when there are these slower throwbacks to Margaret's past. I also think Emily Henry really came into herself with the descriptions of the setting in this book. About 4 pages in, I tabbed a little description of Margaret's house that I just thought was wonderful. I felt so immersed. Funny Story is still my favourite Emily Henry, but this came in a very close second and I read it in under 24 hours after I received the book. The next book I want to talk about is The Devils by Jo Abercrombie. I do want to start out by saying I have done a paid partnership for this advert. It is available to watch on my TikTok or on the Galanx TikTok. But I did just love the book so much and so it had to be included in my top 5 of the year. This was one of the books that really surprised me, only because I knew it was going to be very different to Jo Abercrombie's other books. And I did really enjoy his other books. But even though this one is quite different, it still has that grimdark Jo Abercrombie flair, but it just had so much fun in the pages. I could tell that Joe was writing this and maybe kicking his feet and laughing, because it's just really joyous for how also violent and dark it is. It follows a Suicide Squad type gang of monsters and misfits. It has a geriatric vampire, a cursed knight, an elf, a magician, a werewolf, and they all have to band together to get a long lost princess who is currently living as a street thief onto the throne of Troy, whilst also being aware that there is an army of elves coming to eat everyone. I know, the plot is crazy, but it's so much fun, and I love seeing all the characters interact with each other. I'm not sure who's my favourite character. Probably actually Brother Diaz, who is a monk that is helping them all on their mission. I think he changes the most as the story goes on, but I really liked his character development. It's still got all those really cool, gory, adventurous fight scenes, but it's also really funny, and I think that cuts through the tension and the tragedy really well. I also think the book has absolutely gorgeous character art. If you have a Google, you can see all the different characters. If you haven't read Joe Abercrombie's other books, it's also such a good way to get into them. So whilst it's set in the same world, it's a completely different story, so you don't have to know the background from the other books to be able to enjoy it. Next is Aftertaste by Daria Lavelle, which I read at the end of April, beginning of June. Reading this was a magical realism journey through food and the way it connects us to memories and grief. It's the literary equivalent of fine dining. It follows Kostya, who realizes he has the ability to summon spirits through the food that he cooks. I absolutely loved entering the depths of the New York food scene and watching Kostya work his way up through the food industry while battling his own, often literal, ghosts through the tastes and flavours that call to him through the spiritual realm. There is just so much flavour through the descriptions and characters. Even the characters you only meet for a page or a couple of paragraphs, they're really memorable. Looking back after finishing the book, I remember so many details that were delicately sprinkled through that just stuck out to me. Clearly, so much research went into the food and the places and the ingredients, and I just think it's so inspired. And even though the book is immersive enough on its own, Bloomsbury then invited me to go to a 3-course themed lunch inspired by the book. And we ate our way through the story, we got to ask Daria questions, and I just felt it brought the book to life so much more. After you finish this, you will definitely want to try and recreate some of the recipes. Which brings us to our 5th and final book, which I don't have a physical copy of because I finished it and immediately gave it to my aunt so that she can read it too, because I think she will love it. And that is Don't Let Him In by Lisa Jewell. I don't say this lightly, but I think this is the thriller that I've enjoyed most in my life. I started reading it in the evening and I finished reading it in the early morning because I could not put it down. The story follows 3 women who are connected by the same Tinder swindler con man. He seems like the perfect romantic, but he is the perfect lie. I think the reason I thought this was so good is because the villain is so very good and so very evil. Nick Radcliffe is a psychopath. I think more than thrilling, this was scary, and it's scary because people like this really do exist. It makes you question your own relationships and question the people that you've met. The thriller genre is not one that regularly makes me cry, but I think I cried twice reading this book, and I think it's because I was so emotionally invested in the people he was hurting and I wanted justice for them so badly. I won't spoil the plot, but I will say that children are involved slightly in the story, and how they were hurt through his actions as well really upset me, especially hearing their dialogue. It's one of those books that I want to recommend to everyone, but I also feel I need to prepare them for the emotional devastation and the fear and the intensity. I've always really enjoyed Lisa Jewell's writing, but it was a surprise for me in the fact I didn't think I would love it this much. Plus, after I read it, I then got to meet Lisa Jewell at Capital Crime and did a fun little interview with her. She was super lovely, she's so talented, and it just made the book even more special. I also got to meet Richard Armitage, which was such a cool moment because I'm a huge fan and he was super lovely. And at the event he did a short reading of the book from the antagonist point of view because he is playing him in the audiobook, which is so cool. I think he's perfect for the role. So that is the 5 books that I have enjoyed most so far this year. I'm really excited for what the rest of the year brings. You can check out my Goodreads in the description, so if you see anything on there you think I should prioritize, please let me know because I never know what I should pick up. And I would also love to hear in the comments what have been your top books of the year. My current read is a reread of Circe by Madeline Miller, one of my favourite books and one that is absolutely perfect if you like Greek mythology and you want something to read in the hot summer heatwave. I hope you'll have the loveliest weekend and I will see you again very soon for another video.